Intimate partner violence affects more than 12 million people in the U.S. every year. Domestic abuse isn't just physical. It also comes in the form of constant insults, put-downs, or humiliation. And it's never okay. And while victims of abuse may feel stuck and hopeless, there are safe and viable ways for them to leave their abusers. The first step? Join a supportive community and hear stories of hope, like Nichole Keasey's. At 24, Nichole not only escaped her abuser, but is now thriving in a healthy relationship and expecting her first child. In today's Speak Bravely podcast, she shares her journey and insights. Stay tuned until the end for resources and tips on recognizing red flags in a potential abuser. And now for our interview. Welcome, viewers. We are here today with Nichole Keasey, who is a former student of mine and who is also a survivor of domestic abuse. Nichole has graciously agreed to come on our show today because she's hoping to help those who might also be suffering from an abusive relationship. So thank you so much for being with us today. It's very brave for you to speak up about these difficult things. So Nichole, why don't you start out by just telling us a little bit about your life before you met your abuser?
I was a super shy kid. I didn't really like talking to anybody. I kind of just read my books and liked to write and do stuff like that. I spent a lot of time with my siblings and my friends. But yeah, I was pretty young before I met my ex, so not much.
Okay, and I know in high school, you seemed like you were shy. I don't remember you talking a whole lot, but I really enjoyed having you as my student, and I know you like English. How were you when you were a teenager? Do you feel like you had any relationships before you met your abuser?
I had one relationship before I met my abuser, my first boyfriend, but that was it, and it was a 8-month ordeal. But yeah.
Okay. And so was that when you were in high school or out of high school?
That was out of high school. I did not have any partners in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that relationship was pretty much uneventful in terms of anything negative or okay.
Yeah.
And then though you met this person who tell us about that. At first you thought things were good?
So we started dating online, and I thought things were okay. My ex would be very controlling in a sense of I couldn't do much, but never called me names before I met her in person, or never gave the vibe that she was going to abuse me. Actually, she had told me that she had been abused, and so I kind of just was like, oh, well, then she won't, she knows, and she'll be a good person. And then
that sounds pretty safe. Right?
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty safe space to go, and yeah.
Okay, and then you met in person, and this is an interesting situation because I know a lot of people are in these online relationships, which doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying because it was online that it then led to the other, but just sometimes when you meet somebody online, you are not getting the whole person, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so you met the person, and did you say that then you moved in with them immediately?
Yeah, so she was living a state over from me, and she flew out to meet me. And then never left. It kind of just, she was going to stay 2 weeks and then never left. And it was a super quick, just throw you into the relationship. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you begin to notice something wasn't quite right?
I want to say as soon as we had established that she was going to be living there is when I noticed that things weren't right. The controlling started. I was living with my cousin and her boyfriend at the time, And I wasn't even allowed to hang out with my cousin's boyfriend without it seeming like I was doing something wrong. So it was almost immediately.
Okay. And I really appreciate you being willing to share the details, even though I'm sure it's not easy, because I think sometimes when people are in these abusive relationships, they don't always recognize it, right?
Yeah.
And so for you to be willing to describe the abuse, and we're talking at this point psychological, emotional abuse, right? I think is very helpful for our viewers. So you're saying that one of the things that was happening is she did not want you interacting or hanging out with other people because she thought they could be a threat in terms of possibly cheating on her or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was that the first time anyone had treated you that way?
Yeah. It was the first time I felt like I was viewed as an object that she could just tell me what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so did you comply with her when she would make those demands? Would you comply with her?
I would try.
Because I could see why you would, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to make a relationship work, I could see why you would get drawn into that. So tell me what else happened that was negative in that relationship.
Yeah. Once the controlling started and she realized that I would listen, I guess listen would be the right word to her, that's when she started to go more into depths of the hitting and doing things like that to me. If I didn't do something right, it was just immediate anger. I could look at her wrong. I could wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and it's just immediate anger. I can't tell you the exact first time she hit me. It was close to 3 months to us living together. I can't tell you exactly what happened. My brain fogs that out. I tried to remember.
Understandably. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's not something that I can seem to remember, but I know that it was something super, super minute, and I shouldn't have been hit over it. I just remember, like, she would throw things at me, whether it was a metal watch or she would destroy my things. She would rip my things up, or like photos of my like dead grandfather or things like that. And
trying to get at you.
Yeah, any little thing she could do. She'd lock me in the house and not let me out. I wasn't allowed to talk to my cousin at that point. She was isolating me from anything and everything I knew.
Yeah. And I know this is hard to talk about, but how were you feeling about yourself, or how emotionally, how were you feeling when these things were happening?
Yeah. I didn't really know how to feel. I came from a family who was super not into violence and not into being mean to other people. And so for me, I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't know why I was allowing those things to happen. And so it was kind of a self-esteem like crusher. I was like, how am I allowing something so horrible to happen to me? I was one of those typical, it'll never happen to me. And then I was in it and I didn't know how to get out.
Yes. And I think that's something that people don't understand about domestic abuse, is this sort of feeling almost like you're in quicksand, or like you're in a dream that you can't get out of. You can't, because you're stuck there, and it becomes a pattern too, right?
Yeah.
Like the abuse, and then however it was that you would react and then recover, and then again the abuse, and then it's kind of survival.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was definitely living in survival mode. There was nothing I could do, it felt, at some days.
Yeah. Did any family or friends reach out to you at that time and with concerns, or do you think they knew, or did you hide it pretty well? So
my mom had asked how I was doing. She had noticed a slight shift in my demeanor and my attitude towards her even. And then one day my cousin actually seen the bruising on my chest. And that didn't go over pretty for my ex, but I still was so young and naive and just didn't know how to respond to somebody knowing that I asked my cousin to just not say anything again. It just made life worse for me. And if I wanted out, I would get out. And
there's just such a feeling of helplessness, I know. Okay, so now let's talk about how it changed. So what happened to get you out of that situation?
Yeah. So at that point, I had actually moved to the state that she had originally come from with her. I was living there, and I was staying with her family, and I had noticed that she had been cheating on me routinely with other different women, multiple different women, and showing me that there was hope, that I didn't have to accept abuse, but I definitely didn't have to accept both abuse and cheating.
Yeah.
And the final straw, she had told me she was going on a business trip, and I believed her because that's what you do when you love someone, and I did not question. And then she left for said business trip, and I didn't hear from her for 48 hours. At that point, I had made missing persons reports. I was stressing. I thought she was hurt or had wrecked somewhere. And then her mom called the workplace and said, actually, no, she's not on a business trip. She had requested to go out of town 3 weeks ago, and have time off.
Oh, yeah.
And, and then I did some digging, and I found out where she really was.
Okay.
And so all I remember is I called my mom, and my mom said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
She had already known a lot of the stuff that was going on. And so she said, let's get you home. And I came home that night. So
thank goodness you had her and you went home. Yeah. And I know when we spoke about this a few days ago, you had said that your abuser gave you the gift of cheating on you.
Exactly, she did.
So that you could get out of the situation.
Yeah.
Interesting, too, though, how it sounds like by then you were ready and you knew it was time to leave.
Yes.
Because I know that some people, they'll just keep hanging on anyway. And so I'm glad that you knew, and I'm glad your mom was there for you.
Yeah.
So let's move into that part of the interview where you talk about who helped you in your recovery. How did you recover? Why are you okay now? I know you told me you still have hard days, and I think that's important for viewers to hear, that it's not an instant recovery, but that it takes time. But what are some of those things that helped you heal?
Yeah, I would journal a lot when I first moved home. I would just kind of try to work through my feelings. I had a cousin who had gone through something similar, and she tried to help me also by offering up her words of wisdom and what she did to get through it. We spent a lot of time together, just kind of healing together.
Oh, I think that's huge. I'm going to stop you right there because I really want to reinforce that concept that finding someone or a group who is maybe a few steps ahead of you in that cycle or situation to support you and give you some help and some words of wisdom based on their learning. It's super helpful, which is what I'm hoping that Nichole is doing for our viewers who might be in that situation. So go ahead. So you spent time with her.
Yeah. My family also, my parents and my siblings, they helped me a lot. My mom, she really tried to just let me feel my feelings. I didn't like to cry a lot when I was with my ex, but when I left her, I would try to allow myself to feel those feelings because I wasn't allowed to feel them before. If I did, I was just a baby and I was just sad or mad or whatever.
You're probably hard on yourself for feeling your feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is my problem?
Exactly. And so when I found out that I could cry and I could feel those feelings, little by little, I started to feel better. And really leaving her was probably my biggest step in healing. And my smile literally just came back immediately. That
just gives me chills. I love that. Yeah. So feeling your feelings, I cannot emphasize that enough. I would say that that's true with just about any hardship somebody goes through, right? Is being willing to feel your feelings and be sad and cry. And I think that's how we release those negative feelings and memories and begin the healing process.
Yeah.
And what else? Anything else help you along the way?
Even today, 2 years later, I'll have bad days, and I try to just not think of the bad as much as I am the good. I'm in a healthy relationship. I am an expecting mother, and that's all I can do is just thank God that he placed me in a place to be able to have these like good things happen. There was a time in my life where I didn't think I was ever going to be here. I thought I was going to be stuck or even dead.
Yeah.
And so reminding myself that there is good in the world is what helps me get through too.
Yes, I love that. And you are in a healthy relationship, and I love that. And it's so exciting that you are going to be an amazing mom.
Thank you.
And I think, though, that you had to be ready to know that you were worthy of somebody who treats you right, to draw that person to you, and to be ready for that. And thank goodness you were, and thank goodness for him. And I don't know if I'm right about that, but it seems like I think once we do our self-work, and like how you were doing the journaling and you were doing the learning from others and getting the support of your family, then you became more ready for the relationship you're in now. Do you think that's true?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So, Nichole, what advice would you give to somebody who is in this situation right now? Maybe we could start with red flags. What should a person look for if they are questioning whether or not they are in an abusive relationship?
If you have to even wonder if your partner is being even kind some days, or even just the controlling aspect, it doesn't even have to be physical. I think that the main thing that you can look for is just them not allowing you to be who you want to be and when you want to be that person. That's how it started for me, and I wish I would have watched those red flags sooner, but I couldn't. But I can try and help people now. But yeah, definitely just watch for the control. That's where it starts, I think.
I think that's really important for our viewers to hear. And that piece that you just said about not being allowed to be who you are. And also, I would add, not valued for who you are.
Exactly.
Right? This person just wants to control you. They don't really value you, appreciate you, or love you. It's not really love, is it, when it's that kind of control?
It's one-sided at that point. Your partner should already just love who you are, and they shouldn't try to change that in any way.
Yeah. And people who love you, I don't think they hit you.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So, Nichole, if you could speak directly to somebody in our audience who is going through this, who is in an abusive relationship, what would you say to them?
I'd say there is a light at the end of a very dark tunnel. You aren't stuck, and there's always someone you can turn to. There's always a way out, and you just have to find the way out. But yeah, you're not stuck, and don't ever feel stuck or hopeless or lost.
Yeah, you might think you're stuck. If you feel very stuck, but if you open up and are willing to look for a way out, you'll find one.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people actually go through it. And it might be scary to talk about it at first, but your abuser isn't the only person in the world. There are other people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our show. And Nichole, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I think it really helps to have somebody go through and describe what this domestic abuse looks like. Because I think there are some people who unfortunately are in this kind of situation and they may not fully recognize it. And I know it gives people hope to see you thriving and having a healthy relationship and expecting your beautiful baby. And it's been so wonderful to connect with you again. Thank you for being here on our show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. If you'd like to see another empowering video from a survivor of domestic abuse, check out my next video, an interview with Renee Christensen, who has some wise and motivating words for women who feel powerless and unsure how to break free. Also, victims of domestic abuse can visit the National Domestic Violence Hotline by calling the number on the screen or by texting START to 88788. Their services are free and confidential. If you're not sure if your partner has abusive tendencies, or if you have a friend or loved one who's in a relationship and you're wondering about their situation, here are some red flags. 1, controlling behavior, such as monitoring your whereabouts, your activities, or your communication. 2, jealousy and possessiveness. 3, emotional or verbal abuse, like frequent put-downs, insults, humiliation, gaslighting you, making you doubt your perceptions or feelings. 4, threats and intimidation, threatening to harm you, your loved ones, or themselves if you leave. 5, blame shifting, refusing to take responsibility for their actions and blaming you for their behavior. 6, financial control, preventing you from having access to money or resources or forbidding you to work. 7, physical aggression, any unwanted physical contact, even mild at first, like grabbing your arm or pushing. 8, manipulation and guilt, making you feel guilty for setting boundaries or expressing needs. If you notice these red flags, trust your instincts. Abusers are good at what they do, and if you found yourself at their mercy, it's not because you failed, it's because you're afraid. Now is the time to seek support from a trusted friend, family member, or professional. I'm Shawnee McBride from SpeakBravely.com, where we share survival stories and are not afraid to speak about mental health. Visit our website for more resources. Until next time, take care.